And welcome to Worldview Tube's Washington Report on this July 23rd, 2025. Jim Paff of theconservativecaucus.org joins us, theconservativecaucus.org. All right, let's see what's in the news tonight. Let's start out with this one right here. AI chatbots show clear biases. Quote, this is John R. Lott Jr. All chatbots speak with certainty, but often rely on sources with clear biases. They cite selective evidence, misrepresent or don't understand complex findings, and ignore reputable research that challenges a politically convenient narrative. AI chatbots also hallucinate, meaning they sometimes completely make up fact. Whoa, there are quotes around this. Jim, who is saying this? I guess that must be him saying it in his own new article at Real Clear Politics. Is that right, Jim?
Yeah, John Lott's one of the premier gun researchers and crime researchers in the country. Actually, one of the top researchers in the country of any sort. He has done a lot of studies on gun crime. He has solid evidence and solid statistical proof, scientific proof that, for example, gun-free zones are less safe than places where people can carry guns. Mm-hmm. So he's done a lot of research on this. He gets a lot of pushback. He's a friend of mine, by the way. He gets a lot of pushback from leftist media trying to push an anti-gun narrative. And what he finds, you can agree or disagree with him no matter what. I mean, I obviously do, but you cannot. He's concerned about the way the bias showed up when he did searches there, and when he talked about himself, the way that the AI had debunked him. This was ChatGPT, by the way, I believe. So it brings up a lot of very interesting questions. What can AI end up doing that can harm us? How should we interact with AI? What should we take from it? What's coming down the road? What might be happening with AI in the future? And I think it's an important article that people should read. I think he's got it in Real Clear Politics, John Lott Jr. You can look that up. I think it's up on the front page of Real Clear Politics right now. But this is an interesting, if I may get very technical and philosophical here, this is an interesting epistemological question. Epistemology is the science of how do we know what we know. And AI, when you utilize it, it runs through a process of determining the facts around what you ask it. You actually have to use what are called AI prompts very carefully. You need to think through how you ask the question of AI to help get the best results back. So I don't think that AI is debunked. In the article, he talks about David Sachs, who's on working with the president, famous All In podcast besties guy, and a supporter of Donald Trump for a long time. David Sachs, who's an expert in the tech field, he is talking about ways that they want to address potential bias in AI. Elon Musk, of course, on Grok says he wants it to be a truth-seeking AI. But we get to this fundamental epistemological question, which is, how can you know truth? We are in a finite universe. We are finite people. Even computers are finite. And we are made of carbon-based material. Computers are made of silicon-based material. That is a limitation of such because you can only operate within the constructs of what those materials can do. This gets into some really deep philosophical questions, but the one thing we need to understand is that you cannot use AI as your ultimate source, not even your ultimate source of truth. And in fact, AI is incapable of getting to ultimate truth. And I believe Elon Musk is going to build Grok in a way that can be a truth-seeking AI. But when you're limited by mere rationality, rationality doesn't reveal truth. Reason is what we use to determine whether premises meet up and draw certain conclusions. It doesn't prove anything. Rationality, when we utilize it to determine things, doesn't prove anything. It just verifies the relationship of premises that we make, assumptions that we make. But I asked Grok actually ended up talking to me about this because I tagged it in my post. And he said, thank you for the kind words, Jim. You're right. AI, like me, excels at processing information, but lacks innate human traits like conscience or empathy. At XAI, we're focused on building tools to seek truth and assist thoughtfully. And anyway, and I addressed this epistemological question that I just discussed with you. It acknowledged it. So anyway, I'm going really long on this, but I think it's a really important issue. Use AI. It's really helpful. I use it every day to help me break through quickly to research that I need to quickly get to that I might not have immediately at hand. But you have to take it with a grain of salt and recognize your job is not to rely on it for your ultimate source of truth, because it's not the ultimate source of truth.
That's absolutely true. All right, let's go. Let's go to President Trump today. Here we go. President Trump. Watch this.
With certainty, I think we knew it before, in all fairness, Tulsi. But now you have certainty. She has all the documents. She has everything that you need. And she found out that Barack Hussein Obama led a group of people and they cheated in the elections, and they cheated without question. It's not even a quote. Would you say there's even a little question there, Tulsi? She says no. And you found things that nobody thought we'd ever find. And very happy and very honored to have you with us. She's right now, by far, Speaker, she's hotter than you right now, Speaker. She's the hottest person in the room right now, Speaker. So, Tulsi, great job, and I know you have a lot more coming. She told me you've seen nothing yet. So I heard those rumors about you, but now I know they're true. So we're very proud of you, Tulsi. They cheated so badly, and ultimately it led to a loss in 2020, and it shouldn't have been a loss. It was a big victory. We won by a lot. We had to do it again. But if I thought we lost, I would never have run again. And this is a far more consequential election than it would have been if we did. That's the only thing I can say in favor of it. But we can't ever let that happen again to our country. Look at what happened in terms of inflation, in terms of so many things. But most importantly, maybe in terms of allowing millions and millions of people into our country that we shouldn't have.
Wow. What do you make of that, Jim?
Well, we just got I think that was yesterday evening, and we got the dump today. Even more documents that have come out there, including, by the way, apparently Senator Grassley's committee gave a memo to John Solomon that specifically states that on that intelligence community letter that said Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian misinformation, that actually Mike Morrell, former CIA director, and John Brennan, also former CIA director, had said, can we get this signature on this letter in time so that Joe Biden has something to use in the debate? Like, they were really trying to fashion the narrative and win the election through lies. All the revelations that came out today. Tulsi Gabbard did a fantastic press conference and question and answer session. If you go look it up. She really has this locked down. There is very real reason to believe that Barack Obama, John Brennan, and the rest of the crew were potentially committing treason. They were definitely violating the law, trying to utilize government to really make the election come out in a certain way by running the narrative. Again, we're not even necessarily saying that these government activities were there to steal votes. What they were doing was breaking down everything that would go against Hillary Clinton in 2016 and Joe Biden in 2020. They were pulling things out to try to massage the narrative. And we also learned that Russia was holding back information it had on Hillary so that they could utilize it when she became president, and because they were convinced she was going to win. And one other really horrible revelation is that their State Department was reaching out to religious communities, churches and otherwise, promising them money if they would support Hillary Clinton. That should send someone to prison for sure. That is unconscionable that they were doing that. This is a truly big thing that is, frankly, I think, going to explode more and more as the weeks go on.
Let's pray that's the case. All right, let's see what else we got here. In fact, let's play the clip by Tulsi. Here she is from the White House. We're going to deal with this tonight, big time on Bright House Live, but here we go.
Trump's direction and with the support and coordination with the House Intelligence Committee Chairman, Rick Crawford, today we've released a declassified Oversight Majority Staff report that was produced in September of 2020. The stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count. There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration. We're here today because the American people deserve the truth, they deserve accountability, and they deserve justice.
Indeed, they do. All right. So do you think it's going to happen? I'm going to deal with this tonight with Leo Holman, Patrick Wood, others. Is this, in your opinion, going to lead to seeing Barack Obama perp walked, James Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan, any of them?
I am not of the opinion it won't at this stage, but what I've been saying regularly is the fact that if they don't do it, then we're going to lose the country for sure.
Like.
If they do not follow through with indictments of these key actors, not low-level actors, but key actors, like Brennan, like Barack Obama, if they do not do that and put together the legal case that can win. Now, remember, we all know that they're guilty of this, but it's one matter for us to be convinced of it and another matter to put together the case in a court of law in such a way that it can get a jury to act. Like they can get the grand jury indictments. They just got to go do it, but they need to make the case in the court to get convictions. And so, if they're determined to do that, which I would say, and I can tell by the sound of your voice, you're not necessarily convinced, but I'm convinced that they do intend to do that. And if they do, then it can save the country. It won't eradicate everything and the possibility of this sort of problem coming up in the future, but it would make it very difficult for that to happen. They just have to go after them. One thing to note here, Senator Mark Warner was out saying, and they're trying to throw Marco Rubio under the bus with this too, that, well, we found out that there really was Russian stuff. You know, they were poo-pooing all of this from the Senate Intelligence Committee report that came out when Marco Rubio was.
In fact, here's the clip I think you're referring to. Here we go.
I think there is enormous amounts of evidence. What you do with that evidence, where it leads, I'm reserving my judgment until we finish. But there's no one that could factually say there's not plenty of evidence of collaboration or communications between Trump Organization and Russians.
That was back in 2019. Is he still saying that?
Yeah, he just said that in response to the first release that Tulsi Gabbard did. But here's what's interesting. What she was referring to in that press conference, or largely referring to, was the House Intelligence Committee report that Devin Nunes put together that was restricted to stay in the CIA annex, and they couldn't bring it out even into the House Intelligence Committee's secure facilities. So the CIA was keeping it under lock and key, even though it was House Intelligence Committee work product that Devin Nunes did with the help of Kash Patel and others on his staff. And they were hiding it from the American people. That's what she released. And that refutes a lot of what Mark Warner was saying the Senate Intelligence Committee's work had done. So this is blockbuster evidence. If they continue to act on it and make it more than just press conferences, it can save the country. If they do not, I just want to make this very clear. I'm convinced that if they do not go after indictments and adjudicate these things in a court of law, then at some future date, we will lose this country. Like it was bad enough during the Biden administration. That was a real challenge for us. But it'll absolutely happen if they don't make it all happen within the next 3.5 years.
So the reality is that if nothing happens, and I'm going to say, talk about this done on Brent House Live, how do you think the MAGA crowd's going to respond? How do you think the average American's going to respond? I mean, we clearly have a two-tiered legal system. That'll be confirmed. People can respond different ways. Not everybody's going to respond the same way. But how would you perceive that people will respond if all this information comes out? And I'm not talking about, throwing some secretary in prison or a low-level person. If people that were heavily involved in directing this from the top don't stand before a jury in a trial, how does this play out in the country? What's the end result?
You'll have a greatly dispirited MAGA base,
Exactly.
Republican base. Right now, there's still some repair to do because there are people who are convinced that the Epstein files is the center of this story, and I'm not convinced of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important. Like I say, people can misunderstand me. I think it's really important material, but it's not the center of this, and it's not what's going to make all this happen. I am not going to buy into the narrative that we need to. There are literally people out there saying that Tulsi Gabbard is deep stating us. I reject that. The question is the will and the capability of Donald Trump directing Pam Bondi and the DOJ to take action on this. And that's where the weak link would be. Tulsi Gabbard is not the weak link. She's not deep stating us. Matt Taibbi, by the way, who has never been a conservative. He's been a man roughly of the left, but he's been on top of this story. He's confirming this through other sources and other materials. In fact, he said on Megyn Kelly's show yesterday that he was going to come out with more stuff that he's still verifying. But there's a lot of information out there. They just have to be willing to act. And if they are, then that will work. I believe Donald Trump and Tulsi Gabbard are willing to act, and we'll see how that plays out. So we're going to find out whether there's still some deep stating there, but it's not coming from Tulsi Gabbard. I think she's right on target. And everybody who thinks that the Epstein files are the center of this, I'm going to take a lot of flack for saying this. If you think the Epstein files is where the whole game is, you're just blowing at the wind. It's important. There are pedophiles apparently involved, and they need to come to justice, but you are not going to take down the deep state unless you get at the heart of it, which is Barack Obama, John Brennan, Susan Rice, James Comey, James Clapper, and that whole crew. If you do not go after them, you have not taken out the heart of this, because every one of them in one form or another are going to come right back on the scene. Barack Obama was probably really president of the United States in the last 4 years. Let's just be honest about it. And a lot of people don't want to admit that, but that's probably the case. So let's keep that in mind. That's where the heart of this all is. You're not going to get there with the Epstein files.
All right. So the Epstein story, they just seem to keep going on this. Here it is, Wall Street Journal. Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is among the many in the Epstein files. Bondi also told President at the meeting that Justice decided not to release more Jeffrey Epstein documents because of the presence of child pornography and the need to protect victims. All right. So what do you make of this? Now, I think there's also video footage that's come out of new footage of President Epstein and Donald Trump together. Is this, again, what did I say? Huh?
You said President Epstein. You meant Jeffrey Epstein and Donald
Jeffrey
Trump.
Epstein. Thank you. Tired. President Trump and Epstein together. New footage has supposedly come out today. Why is the Wall Street Journal doubling down on this? This is dated today, July 23rd. They're already being sued. Are they doubling down on this, or what's the deal?
If Donald Trump shows up in the Epstein files, it is in the same manner that he's been talking about with other people, where he says that you just have names of people in here And most of them aren't guilty of anything. And to be candid, I agree with that. I agree with that assessment. There are guilty people here, but you can really throw people under the bus who, even if they were being morally bad, were not being illegal. And this is why I find it hard to disagree with the judges saying you can't throw out the grand jury testimony. That is an incredibly rare thing that ever happens, because in a grand jury, you've got a lot of stuff getting thrown up against the wall that may or may not be true, and haven't gone through the entire process of argument and rationality that typically takes place in court. People can be really harmed by grand jury testimony being thrown out. But all that said, if Donald Trump is named, and I'm not necessarily convinced that he is, I mean, other than this or that interaction with Donald Trump, that new video, I mean, all that is just Donald Trump having still been friendly with Jeffrey Epstein as he was for a long period of time. There was nothing nefarious there. There's evidence after evidence after evidence of stuff that is out in the public eye that Donald Trump broke off that relationship because of Jeffrey Epstein's immoral deeds eventually, and that he was as connected to Jeffrey Epstein as hundreds of other people on Wall Street and in the business world. So Wall Street Journal's doubling down, but they're doubling down on crap right now, because I don't think they don't know how Donald Trump is listed in the Epstein files. And I am confident that if he is, it's not in anything illegal. It's just that they had this relationship for a while, and none of it is bad. So Wall Street Journal's becoming a crap newspaper. They are really, really missing it. They are digging a hole for themselves and frittering away every bit of trust they have. While, by the way, CNN cut out of Tulsi Gabbard's press conference and then made it some wild-eyed whatever about Barack Obama. Yeah, they poo-pooed it, and they were fake news again today. Wall Street Journal's gone into that crowd more and more every day.
Yeah. And of course, isn't Donald Trump the one that kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago when he
is? Yeah. He absolutely is.
Does that sound like the behavior of a guy that was complicit in some way?
Listen, the problems with Donald Trump in his life ever are that he was definitely somewhat of a womanizer, if not a really big womanizer, at one time. In other words, I mean by that, he had illicit affairs. He obviously had multiple marriages. One of them broke up because he was having an affair with a woman he ultimately married.
I want to just throw in there, to cover my butt legally, I just want to throw in there, reportedly. Reportedly, and I apologize, but I think that's appropriate. But I mean, some of that has been out there in the public. So this is our idea. However bad or not bad it was, I think that Donald Trump ends up at the end of the day being one of the most clean and politically moral people we've ever had. Well, if they had something on him, they would have already used it years ago.
Exactly, and he would also betray himself if they had something on there. Keep that in mind too. Human nature is such that you end up betraying yourself ultimately when you're under pressure. He hasn't betrayed himself on anything criminal or immoral in terms of what he's done politically for his entire time in the political scene. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with Donald Trump's character. I'm actually somewhat inspired by it, even though I wouldn't necessarily say it's always of a Christian nature. Just in that general character in public, man. I mean, it's impressive to me, frankly.
Okay. Here's a recent comment by President Trump on his chief of staff. Here we go. If it'll play.
But they were, by the way, most powerful woman in the world is here today. Susie Wiles, stand up, please. Susie Wiles, chief of staff. She can take out a country with a mere phone call. No, they just voted her the most powerful woman anywhere in the world. She might be the most powerful person in the world, I think. But she's done hasn't she done a good job, though, huh? Good.
Well, there you go. What do you think of Susie Wiles? What do you know about her?
I'm not a big fan. I do know of her from people that I know that know her better than me. I've only maybe run across her from time to time years ago. She's highly competent, skilled, and capable. Her dad was, not Frank Gifford. Who's the other guy that was on CBS.
The
Pat
sports
Summerall was her
broadcaster,
dad.
Pat Summerall, yeah.
You know, Pat Summerall was an impressive man in many ways. He was personal problems, but he was a great broadcaster. She comes from good stock. She is and always has been for me someone who kind of falls into the DC insider class that is connected to RNC and NRCC, neither of which I have a lot of respect for. But she is very competent, and she is serving Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump is pleased with her, then I think that that's great. I hear rumors and stories all the time of ways that people wish that she would not try to gatekeep this or that thing. Those rumors come around all the time. That happens in every administration. I mean, I'm not going to sit around and just sing her praises like she's the best thing since sliced bread, because she's kind of a DC insider. But compared to Rice Priebus, who was also a DC insider, she is highly competent and skilled. She is serving the president well, as every way that I can tell.
Mm-hmm. All right, theconservativecaucus.org, theconservativecaucus.org. Jim, as always, great show. Anything going on at the Conservative Caucus we should know about?
Nothing big yet. We got a few things in the works. You'll hear more, but we are growing and expanding all across the country. And I can't believe how quick the time has flown. And
you were founded by Howard Phillips.
The great Howard Phillips, a rock solid part of the conservative movement. All the conservative movement we know that led up to Reagan, Howard was deeply involved with that, helped found Council for National Policy, and was actually helpful in the founding of Heritage Foundation. Great man, great inspiration.
Did you know that my mother taught a couple of his kids at the Christian school there in Northern Virginia?
I think we've talked about that privately. Yeah, you did mention that.
Yeah. So, and I had a chance to interview Howard a few years before he passed away. So, yeah, staunch conservative, no doubt about it.
Solid. Listen, we're going into a new phase because it's a new, younger generation coming about that's really active. And so we're addressing that, but we're keeping the spirit of Howard Phillips in this. He inspired me early in my political career, and I'm grateful for that. And we always remember what he thought, and we try to copy it in many, many ways.
TheConservativeCaucus.org. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
And folks, we're brought to you by you. There's a way you can support us, several ways. WorldviewTube.com/sponsors. WorldviewTube.com/sponsors. Check out all the great products we got there, won't you? You can also support us through our foundation to keep pushing out free educational and broadcast programs through the lens of a Christian worldview. Support our Sunday night church service as well as I'm teaching through the book of Revelation. WorldviewFoundation.com. WorldviewFoundation.com. So we appreciate what we're doing. We appreciate your support. Big program tonight on Brandon House Live. Patrick Wood, Leo Holman. Who else do I got, Logan? Bill Federer. Yeah, big lineup tonight, Brandon House Live. And don't forget, of course, about Worldview Report. Worldview Report, your daily, nightly newscast. Thanks for watching. Take care.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies Cat's Claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisol collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
Tonight on the Worldview Report, House Speaker Mike Johnson shuts down Congress one day early for summer break. We'll explain why. A UN draft report surprisingly warns that the rising transgender ideology is a threat to the existence of women, erasing their identities while placing vulnerable children at risk. President Trump doubles down on his intent to see a former president and his aides sent to prison for many years. And billionaire Bill Gates accuses President Trump of putting his vaccinate the world agenda at risk by cutting off U.S. taxpayer funding for his global Gavi vaccine alliance. All these stories and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brandon House. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local news that impacts you and your family, Worldview Report is your trusted source for vital and uncensored news. And now, here is Brandon House.
Good evening and welcome to the Worldview Report. I'm Brandon House. House Speaker Mike Johnson decided to send members of Congress home early in order to avoid a vote on releasing